It's fairly common knowledge that Warhammer miniatures aren't particularly cheap, but today I thought we'd look at some of the miniatures that I think are the worst value that Games Workshop sells for various different reasons. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics for a slightly more light-hearted discussion around buying Warhammer miniatures. I recently made a video on a few different tips to save money while buying Warhammer 40k, so feel free to check that one out if you'd like to. I'll put the link down in the video description. But one of the suggestions in the comments was to do a bit of an overview of some of the worst deals from Games Workshop at the moment. In general, I prefer to keep things quite positive, and I more tend to just focus on the things that I actually might consider buying, and just ignore the things that I wouldn't. But I thought it could be a fun angle to approach the topic from, so in this video we're going to focus on the actual miniatures that Games Workshop sells, and which ones I think might not be the best deal for a few different reasons. The 40k range is absolutely huge, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of other examples, so if you can think of anything else that I don't mention on here that's a particularly awful deal, then please let me know down in the comments. First of all, if you're a gamer and you're trying to get a 2,000 point army together, there are plenty of models in the range that just have a hilariously low value in terms of pounds or dollars spent per point. I'm certainly not saying that these models don't look very cool, but often cool looking models in the game might be charged at a very low points cost, so it might not actually get you all that far towards getting an army. In terms of troops, one of the most expensive per point is the Acolyte hybrids. If you just ran them without any rock swords or anything, then a squad of 5 is putting you at 40 points, and you're paying £25 or $40 for the privilege. It's quite conceivable that you might want quite a lot of these in a Genestealer cult army. They can be really quite hoardy if you want them to be, and it makes them one of the more expensive factions to collect. Another example that I've often gone back to are Orc mech guns. They cost £30 for the mech gun and some Gretchen crew, and if you feel the cheapest variant, the Smasher gun, then it'll cost you just 40 points. Again, it is a unit that you might want lots of multiples of, so it could get very expensive very quickly. Forge World, and particularly the Death Corps of Krieg, take this to a whole another level. Their infantry squad costs £46 or $72 for 50 points, and the Death Riders even edge that out with £75 for 75 points, so you're paying £1 per point of model that you put on the table. Very nice miniatures, but at some pretty crazy prices. Another area that rankles a bit is when you get a very small amount of plastic for the amount of money that you invest. In particular, I think that character models are a very bad example of this. Perhaps the sort of thing that if you put on the table and asked a concerned family member to guess how much it would cost, they might be unpleasantly surprised. For example, this Primaris Lieutenant with a power sword is £20 or $35 for one model that's not really all that different to an Intercessor, and some of the new Sisters plastic characters, which are pretty tiny standard infantry size models, are £22.50 or again $35. Don't get me wrong, some of Games Workshop character models are absolutely beautiful and well worth the investment in my opinion, but if they're fairly plain or I could get away with a kit bash, then I will often try to. Their upgrade sprues in terms of plastic as well also give you a very small amount for the amount of money that you spend. Certainly some cool bespoke details, but realistically you're getting pretty much no more than one miniature worth of plastic, and it means that you waste a whole bunch of other parts on the sprue. Next we have the model looks and some of the most ancient miniatures in Games Workshop's range. I think that one of the very best examples of this is the Orc Deathcopter that you see on the right. This one will cost you £20.50 or $33 for one really quite old metal miniature. These guys are still a metal kit. I think some of the classic older sculpts tend to age better than others, and I think it's fair to say that this one hasn't aged particularly well. I know there must be a lot of Orc players out there who would absolutely love to see the Assault on Black Reach Copters in 5th edition be re-released, but seeing as we've waited 4 editions now, I'm not exactly holding my breath. There's always going to be something that's the oldest in Games Workshop's range, but some of the most notable ones at the moment are the Eldar Phoenix Lords, Dante and several of the other older Space Marine characters, Khorne Berserkers and Noise Marines who are longing for the same treatment that their Death Guard and Thousand Sons brothers got, and some of the older troops boxes such as Cadians, Kaschans and Eldar Guardians. In particular, the Storm Guardians option isn't such a great deal. You both have to buy a quite old Guardian kit, combine that with another very old upgrade sprue, and wind up paying really quite a lot per model. Definitely an option that I'd think about kit bashing with some fantasy parts if I was playing Eldar. Next, there's quite a lot of models in the Games Workshop range that almost never make sense to buy in their own individual kit because they're heavily discounted elsewhere. The most recent examples of these are the ones that are discounted in their starter boxes, the most flagrant example being the Necron Warriors, who will cost you £29 to get a box of them, but the Recruit Edition starter set only costs you £32.50, and it gets you 2 extra characters and a squad of Space Marines as well. Pretty much never any point in buying the Necron Warriors. For a similar reason, I think that Scorpet Destroyers and Primaris Outriders are both terrible value as well. They both cost around about £35, over half the cost of the Elite starter box. where if you spent the extra £30, you'd get 2 characters, Assault Intercessors, Necron Warriors, and both the Scorpec Destroyers and the Primaris Outriders. Almost never going to be worth buying from Games Workshop. All of these guys will likely be going on eBay for far cheaper, even if you didn't fancy picking up the whole box. There are a couple of examples from the Start Collecting boxes out there as well. In particular, the Crisis Battlesuits set, which comes in the Tau Start Collecting box. That costs very nearly as much as the Start Collecting box itself. I believe that the Crisis suits cost you $70, where the Start Collecting box will cost you just $95, and for that very slight increase in price, you get an Ethereal and Fire Warriors as well. The same is pretty much true for the Trigon or Morlock kit, again a very small extra cost, and it gets you an additional Broodlord and Genestealers. If I wanted either of those kits, I'd most certainly pick up the Start Collecting box. From time to time, Games Workshop does offer some strange bundles on their website, which give you the strange deal of buy 2 of these and get the third one full price. For example, this Repulsor Executioner Spearhead, when it came out, that one was just basically 3 sets of the Repulsor Executioner box, and it cost you the same amount as buying 3 sets of the Repulsor Executioner. I can see why they do this, to be honest. It's a cheap way of upselling one product, and even if just a few people take the bait and drop some money on a whole set of 3 of these, where really they might have just wanted 1 or 2, then it does make sense from their point of view. It does feel a bit cheeky though to do this sort of upselling, where with just about any other retailer, if they were selling you excessive amounts of one thing, then they would think about at least giving you a nominal amount off the price. These ones do tend to come and go on the Games Workshop website, but several of them still exist on the Forge World one, such as the Astrius Super Heavy Detachment for £693, costing exactly the same as 3 sets of the standard Astrius, but presumably saving you the valuable time that you'd spend by adding 3 sets of the Astrius to your basket. I've always found them just a little bit weird. Finally, these aren't exactly miniatures that Games Workshop sells, but I thought it was just worth talking about Games Workshop's unfortunate global price variations. Here in the UK, we do have things very easy comparatively, and Games Workshop really does charge quite a lot more in the USA, Australia and New Zealand. Just as an example, a standard box of Primaris Intercessors in the UK would cost £35, which is approximately $46 US. In the USA, that's marked up far above the currency conversion rate, and the same box will cost you $60 rather than $46. That's roughly £45. And I'll be honest, they really don't make it easy for people in Australia and New Zealand. That same box of Intercessors will cost you $98 Australian dollars, which honestly is a spectacular markup, being $72 US or £54. Compared with the UK, that's over a 50% markup. I know their numbers must make some sort of sense to them financially as a company, but I can't help but think that it might be better for them growing if they did have at least slightly cheaper prices down under. So I hope you've enjoyed a bit of a ramble about miniatures that I don't intend to buy. Let me know if there's anything else that you spot in Games Workshop that's a spectacularly bad deal. I'm certainly not trying to be too negative. There are plenty of places where Games Workshop offers discounts in bundle boxes, and plenty of kits that get you quite a lot of points on the table for a fairly low amount of money, but it was fun to go over some of the less optimal stuff. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I generally do more 40k tactics content, though I certainly enjoy a bit of price discussion from time to time. Finally, if you are enjoying the channel and would like to help keep these videos coming, I'd just like to mention that the channel has a Patreon page which you can find down in the video description below. Channel patrons get access to a fair few benefits, such as seeing a video early each week, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and entry into the Auspex Tactics prize giveaway, where I post out some decent sized model kits at the start of every month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support the channel, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.